let's talk about the dub. Y'all, we have expansion. We have more games. We have another team.
Finally. Well done, everyone. We did it.
Wow, what a time. I don't know how we can help. But no, like for real, it's really exciting. This is something that everyone's kind of wanted for ages, and it's finally come about. So this season, the Wellington Phoenix will have a side in the W League. The W League will grow to 10 teams. It will be a 14-round competition. We did some math. It took us a while, but we did some math. So 14-round competition, 5 games per round, should be really, really exciting stuff. We know that Wellington tried to get into the W League last season, but a couple of issues prevented them from joining. So now, with the leagues being separate from FA, we've got this new team in, we've got expansion. The bye is gone. Bye, indeed. And everything is just really, really awesome. So would love some thoughts and feelings on Wellington's admission into the W League.
Yeah, I think just a couple of the facts straight up. They're going to at least initially be based in Australia. They confirmed that, same as their A-League team was last year and will this year. But they are hoping that in the second half of the season, they can get back home for some games at Wellington, likely double headers, I think is what they're really hoping they can get back home. In terms of just a bit of stuff you got to know, they have to have at least 7 Australian players. So that would be 7 Australian, 11 Kiwi. And if they want any international players, that comes out of their Kiwi player allocation. So that's just effectively the deal that's been cut with FA. But also, I think FA, from what we understand, the FA are going to pay the minimum salary amount to cover any New Zealand internationals that are playing at other clubs, like your Hannah Wilkinsons or your Paige Satchels, those sorts of players that have already signed, Claudia Bunge, that have already signed for other W League clubs. So it's exciting. I don't know if we'll see Annalie Longo sign for them. She was at their announcement. So you're like, is that going to happen? So you'd think coach and player announcements aren't too far off. You imagine there's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes to get this team up and ready and, set to play. But it's exciting. The expansion's always an exciting thing. We know that the Mariners and Western United are set to follow suit next season, and MacArthur hope to join after the Women's World Cup. They've just been given a bit more time to get things sorted, given they started a club midway through a pandemic. So, it's exciting. It's good to see this progress. It'll be good to have another team in. Getting rid of the bye is great, like guaranteed 5 games every week. I think that's what we want to see. You want to see more football. You want to see it more regularly. You don't want 3 teams having a bye every week, as was happening at times last season. It's just not as fun. But it's exciting. I think the big thing, and Sam and I have both spoken to Danny Townsend, who's the APL managing director, about this. And the thing I think women's football fans, players, etc., want to see is full home and away. And that's clearly going to be a little way off. But both of these things do have to happen. We have to have expansion. You need to have teams committing to having teams in the W League, which is where they clearly want to get to eventually. At least there's some steps happening. It had been 5 years, or 6 years actually, since we'd had a team come into the W League, and that was Melbourne City. So it's great to see this progress happening, and it's actually starting this coming season. It's not getting pushed back. I'm excited by it. I'm excited to see what the Knicks can offer. I'm excited to see how many Kiwi players they have and which players are actually going to be the ones that benefit, because we've seen it in the A-League. We've seen players like at Western United, for example, you have a Dylan Piraeus, or at MacArthur, you have a Denny Jonro, who have gone to these expansion clubs and had breakout seasons and really impressed. Like, that's what you want to see in the W League: more opportunities, more players featuring more games. And for me, it's only a positive. And as long as we just keep taking steps forward and we get closer and closer to home and away, it's excellent. Sam?
I'm also just really excited for New Zealand women's football fans, because this is the second professional women's sports team in the whole country. So the market there for women's sport is pretty much untapped when it comes to this kind of level. So I'm really excited. And I think perhaps that was one of the big drivers behind why Wellington were given a license for this season, is because there is a huge community of football people there. There is a huge market that is willing and ready to pay money to attend games, to buy merch, to buy season tickets, to support this team. And that's really great, and particularly in the lead up to 2023, you know, like it's a co-hosted Women's World Cup, and our two nations go back a very long time in terms of collaborating and cooperating in women's football. So I think this is a lovely sort of extension of that larger history, and I'm really excited for people based in New Zealand to really like come all out for it, because we've seen when they have hosted international sports tournaments that they go absolutely bananas for it. They support basically anyone who shows up. So the fact that they now have another professional women's football team, a team that I think could actually be quite good, because you're going to have quite a few sort of youth national team players coming through the Football Ferns program using this Wellington Phoenix side to sort of as a platform for their own development. Probably going to be associated with New Zealand football in a couple of other ways as well, in terms of their coaching staff and also financially. So I just think like it's a largely positive move, I think, from my perspective. And like, yes, you know, the visa rule and whatever, giving more opportunities to New Zealand players or whatever, but like women's football is an ecosystem, and a rising tide lifts all boats. And if we're able to bring across an entire new market and a new community to the W League, that can only be a good thing.
And Sam, that actually ties really nicely into something Annalie Longo said, which was, I know there's the you can't beat it if you can't see it, but in New Zealand it is actually the case, because there hasn't, as you said, been that professional women's football team. So a lot of their players, if they've made the cut, they've gone overseas straight away to the W League, where not a whole heap of games have been getting shown in New Zealand, or they've gone overseas, where until very recently with deals like the FAWSL deal, you wouldn't have seen it either. So now you genuinely can see these players take the leap. It's not too far from home. It's initially they'll be based in Australia, but then they'll move to New Zealand. They can still, even if they go to another club, they've got those options. It gives more players a chance to make a step up quicker and get key match minutes under their belts quicker. And as you say, Sam, it's just so important to just get more quality players in this league. And yeah, some of the New Zealand football is going to benefit from that. But at the end of the day, we're all women's football fans. We want to see more quality players coming through. And it will benefit our players here in Australia to be playing against better opposition week in, week out. And if that means that, yeah, New Zealand give us more of a test when we play them in the odd international friendly or Olympics match or whatever, so be it, because ultimately we're all going to be better off. And the better our players perform against quality players throughout the league, the more likely they are to get an opportunity elsewhere. So yeah, I think it's exciting times. It's you could just tell how thrilled Longo was at the prospect of some of her younger, say, Ferns teammates or development prospects coming through. It's exciting.